I think a lot about that day that I took Jaiwen to see the orthopedist. And I try often to remember those moments right before the x-rays came back, because basically that was the last time that our lives were so completely ordinary and so normal. I mean, cancer used to be something that only happened to other people. And all of a sudden, we have become the other people.
It was a Friday. It was October 8th, 2010, and I saw my cell phone ringing. And little did I know that my mom was on the other end of the phone, and that she had the worst news in the world.
Jaiwen was diagnosed with osteosarcoma. Unfortunately, osteosarcoma is one of the tumors that has a high predisposition to spread to other sites. If the tumor has spread to the lung, the odds of survival decrease dramatically.
I was scared, but most importantly, I was confused because I really didn't know what it meant to have cancer.
We were so caught up in all different types of emotions. We were scared, we were angry that this was happening to him, and we were just trying to get through each day, one day at a time.
I was really mad. I didn't know why this happened to my little brother. He did nothing to deserve it. There were no warning signs.
And I know then that, things are going to be different.
The treatment for osteosarcoma is a very difficult road. It starts with 10 weeks of very intensive chemotherapy.
And there was never any option where we should go for treatment. He just said, you need to take Jaiwen to Children's. That was the best place for him to be treated.
When I first started my chemotherapy at Children's National, I wanted just to stay in bed, not get out of my room, not do anything. I did think, why was this happening to me? I thought I was so unlucky. I thought, why me? I was just a kid, why not someone else?
Jaiwen had a hard time during his whole chemo treatment. He was often depressed and angry. He never really wanted to go out into the hallways and maybe meet the other kids.
I saw bald patches on his head, and I remember thinking, he looks exactly like one of those sick kids that I see in movies. And at that moment, I realized he is one of those sick kids.
The worst part was knowing that there wasn't anything I could really do to help. And as an older brother, I felt that my job was to help him through these things.
After those first 10 weeks, there's a big surgical procedure, and that is not easy. It's very painful. The part of the bone that's affected by the tumor is taken out, and an artificial bone is put in.
When my dad pulled back the curtain, Jaiwen was there, and he was bent over, and his shoulders were heaving because he was crying so hard. And it was hard for me to see my little brother like that.
And we say that if there's over 90% of the tumor dead, that's a sign of a good outcome. If there's less than 90% of the tumor dead, that's a sign that there's a higher risk of the tumor coming back. And Jaiwen's tumor only had about 40% of the tumor dead.
We thought, hey, he's doing so well, we caught it early, and, and he's gone through so much that we probably should be expecting about 80%. And when we heard 40%, at least I know I was crushed.
And so we had to make the very difficult decision of putting him on a clinical trial, one that came with additional risk, a longer period of treatment, and no guarantees. It was a very, very difficult time because not only did Jaiwen have to endure the effects of the chemo, but he basically had to learn how to walk all over again.
I always had some hope that all I had to do was make it to tomorrow. Tomorrow led to the next week, and soon enough I'd be at home.
But the one thing that got him going, his one incentive, was that he wanted to return to school on the first day and to be able to walk into the school without his crutches. But the nurses were great. Everybody saw him out there in the hallways, and they pushed him and they encouraged him and they cheered him on all the way. Just tell him, one more step, Jaiwen, just keep going, you can do it.
But it wasn't until I met a girl who was usually at the hospital when I was there. She was around my age, so we became good friends.
And I remember they used to play video games together, they would watch TV, they would visit the art room. After their treatment was over, they were going to keep in touch. They were going to grow up and they were going to look back at this time that they survived. But while Jaiwen finished his treatment and got to go home, his friend developed some complications and didn't make it.
And I think about her a lot, and I wonder why I was the one that survived and she didn't.
I think it really made him realize that he had survived and he was one of the lucky ones.
But I realized after everything I've been through that there are so many other kids that are much less fortunate than me. They're not as lucky as I am, because I'm still here and some of them aren't anymore.
And I remember that morning on the first day of school, putting on his backpack for him, worrying that he was going to fall. And I watched him get onto the bus, and I saw him go find his seat. It was a very happy moment for me, and it made me realize that everything was going to be okay.
I still struggle to this day trying to understand why it happened, but he's proven to be so strong and so resilient that I don't think I'm angry anymore.
I want you to realize that, as bad as my story sounds, I was one of the lucky ones because I'm still here. There are many kids out there who are less fortunate that I survived this so that I could spread the message to help other children.